Hello, Dr. Anderson and AEP 859 classmates. This is my Module 4 presentation. I've also did my interview with my curriculum expert here at Elkhart USD 218. Adjust this a little bit. And I'll attach this presentation along with my Google Doc on the Module 4. But this is my Module 4 presentation based on the questions that Dr. Anderson put forward for us. The module overview, again, this is the permanent white paper, the global trends, Common Core, and your local curriculum inquiry report for Module 4. The global trends that I looked at that I really thought were important, and this is an interesting thing that I found out, and I had never heard these terms before, digital literacy and citizenship, which I think is very important, but the two terms that came up when I investigated this was digital natives and digital immigrant. And I had never heard of that before. So the one slide, the first one that came in, talks about digital natives, and those are our students. And some of the things that they deal with as young adults, we never had to worry about as an adult. And like I said, I graduated high school in 1976, and none of the things that are on the digital native thing were an issue. I didn't have a TV in my bedroom. We always ate family dinners together. There was no such thing as social media. We had one landline. Didn't have any kind of video games to play. Reading was important, and in our household, and as well as was in the school. And then I found this article that was titled this, "Are You a Digital Immigrant Teaching Digital Natives?" And that really kind of struck home because, wow, we really are a generation of older people who are digital immigrants, and we're trying to teach these kids who feel comfortable in the digital world. So there's a learning curve for us as teachers that we have to take into consideration. And plus, when we get in administrative roles, we need to realize in curriculum decisions that we need to do what's best for our digital natives. Another trend that I really agree a lot with is collaborative learning. I can see, after reading the article on collaborative learning, and I put the sources next to the last slide, I realize that there's a lot of collaborative learning that goes on in my class unintentionally. I normally take up the whole 55 minutes that we have, but sometimes there'll be 4 or 5 minutes at the end, and I'll see my students in my classroom, they'll get together and talk about math and help each other get those problems right. Now, not being a math person, I can certainly value that kind of collaboration together, because it's obvious that I specifically have one class where I have a very smart math person, and they all look to her for guidance and help. So collaborative learning curriculum in the future should be big on our decisions. And I'm always big about the collaborative learning between a junior in high school and a sixth grader, or a senior and a freshman. I don't like the fact that we separate them by age, and as Dr. Ken Anderson says, by their expiration date or their hatching date. So I think there needs to be more aggressive changes about collaborative learning, and I like those two trends. I think they're better for the students because that's the world that we're in. I mean, if you look at the world that I grew up in compared to the world that these students are in right now, it's a small world. They're going to have to learn to work together. One of my favorite subjects, Common Core. I found this article, and it describes how Common Core came to place. And I thought it was important enough that I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to read through it very carefully so that I can add this to this video. The Common Core standards were drafted largely behind closed doors by academics and assessment experts, many with ties to testing companies. Testing companies? Ooh, follow the money. 25 individuals in the work groups charged with drafting standards. 6 were associated with test makers of the College Board, 5 with test publishers at ACT, and 4 with Achieve. 0 teachers were in these work groups. The feedback groups had 35 participants, almost all of them who were university professors. Cody found 1 classroom teacher involved in the entire process. According to teacher educator Nancy Carlson Page, in all there were 135 people on the review panels for Common Core. Not a single one of them was a K-3 classroom teacher or early childhood professional. Parents were entirely missing. K-12 educators were mostly brought up in after the fact to tweak and endorse the standards and lend legitimacy to the results. This stinks to high heaven. It's unbelievable that they would do this and not involve the people who are going to be implementing it, who's going to be using it. So that's one con. Another con is that because the federal law prohibits the federal government from creating national standards and tests, the Common Core project was designed as a state effort by the National Governors Association, the Council of Chief State School Officers, and a private consulting firm. The Gates Foundation provided more than $160 million in funding, which without Common Core would not exist. Again, follow the money. That's a con. Now, I did find some pros. I'm going to give it equal time. Common Core pros would be it provides better testing for our students, and obviously if we have better testing, we can find the areas that we are lacking in and make changes to make it better. It, as with all opportunities, whether it's successful remains to be seen. Better tracking of national trends, and I tend to agree with it. That's a good thing to find out what the national trends are, again, so we can make adjustments and do a better job of delivering our product, delivering education to these students to provide them for the world. So there are a few cons or pros for Common Core. My stance, well, you could probably figure out what my stance is based on what I've said so far. Well, let's just look at an example of Common Core. There's the old math on the left, 53 plus 37. 3 plus 7 is 0, carry the 1. 6 and 3 is 9, 90. And here's an example of Common Core new math. Are you kidding me? Well, let's take something that's fairly simple and complicate it. And this is just one example. I found hundreds of examples on the internet of ridiculous questions in both social studies, math, science, and English in the Common Core. I just don't understand why it would be that way. These are my sources, and thank you for watching. And thank you, Dr. Anderson and classmates.